lost myself. Okay. Hey, everyone. I'm going to try and formulate this idea that's coming through me today. And so it's like so much in my head is all over the place that I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on to Heart of the Matter, where I know I can just like practice speaking it out loud and then just hearing what you guys think. And then just keep talking to more and more people about it. But basically, first of all, I'm going to tag Goli in here. Goli Belucci, I'm not sure how to say your last name, but we had a great conversation yesterday because she has a vision to create this really awesome like community center, community school idea. And I've just been having so many of these conversations. So what I want to do is actually talk about. I want to talk about starting with like a lot of the times I like to frame it this way. Let's start at the 30,000 foot view. So we're going to get into the airplane. And then at some point, I want to talk about the 10,000 foot view where we're talking about what are the approach, what's the approach I think we can take. And then let's land the plane and talk about literally what this can look like in 3 weeks or even sooner. So with that in mind, I want to start like really high level. And actually, I found a document. You can't see the title of it here, but it's from an organization called Education Reimagined, and they wrote about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I have to look the exact date. They wrote this kind of manifesto for education reform, and I found it when I was building Growth Public Schools, and I was like, "This is it. This is it." And what I love about it is it kind of lays out the shift from the factory model that we've all been operating in for like since in the late 1800s to a new vision for education. So that's one piece I love about it. The other piece I love about it is it's signed by everybody. It's signed by the union, both of the two biggest union presidents, school leaders, teachers, parents, parent leaders, community leaders, nonprofit leaders, politicians. Like it's really a collective vision around how we need to reimagine education. So that came to me today when I was thinking about the vision for Heart of the Matter. I tried to write all the stuff down, so I might be looking down to see what I tried to organize. I just got to start talking. Um, so let me go to the vision of Heart of the Matter, and then I'll talk about the larger vision for education change. So the vision for Heart of the Matter, I've told this story to many people. It has come through in many downloads around a place where people can connect. It's all about community. Heart of the Matter is all about community. It's about connection and community. So it's a place where people can connect ultimately in person, but in this moment, we'll just deal with the virtual connection. So where people can connect like-minded people that are really, really passionate about education and about rising in consciousness and reimagining leadership. But right now we're talking about education. So people coming together, and within that, there's a space to amplify different models of schools, different models of learning, different ways of really showing. And I always talk about the real estate staging your house. You know, when you sell your house and not nobody, but it's much harder to sell it when you have just an empty house versus like that little perfect staging. And I know my friend has a staging company and she's magical with what she can do. And so we have to kind of stage what school could look like. And this moment with COVID, oh my Lord, it's so painful, but it's so amazing, right? This is a time of great, 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 great change. And many people on this page have their own version of describing this based on their tools and their intuition and their connection to the source and the universe and God, whatever you want to name it. And for me, it comes through in the meditation and intuition. And it's always come through as a space for community connection, a space to amplify and share really different, not even really different, just models that can work for the future, could be really different, and as many of them as possible, and then connect people, connect. So that if you're a mom in South Dakota, or you're a mom in Canada, or you're a dad in England, or you're a dad or a grandma in Texas, like, or a teacher or a school leader or whatever, wherever you are in this movement, you can be connected with people that can actually share with you, that can get you, help you, to help you. Okay. So that's really like, in a nutshell, that's a vision for Heart of the Matter. And it's a hub. It's a hub for, hi, Faiza. Now I know how to say your name. Or Faiza, depending on who we're talking to, right? But it's a hub. Okay, so I just keep that in mind as I talk through the other ideas that are coming through. It's a hub where people can connect. It's where resources, that's the informing piece where people can be informed, people get information. All right. So going back to this document, I want to talk about this shift from the old way of doing school to the new way of doing school and how there's a massive opportunity pre-COVID, and this vision I've had for like 3 years now, and it really came through when I really started tapping into my deep meditation. But even before then, I was in love with this document. But really, it talks about how we're moving from the industrial age to the networked age. Okay, really obvious to everyone, and we're moving into a time where it's no longer a top-down, command and control, hierarchical way of doing any institution, but especially schools, right? It's not effective for schools anymore. We could argue that maybe it was effective in the 20th century. That's what we needed, but regardless, it's not effective anymore. So what needs to change is that our schools were built for in basically like mini factories and assembly lines, quite frankly, right? Any of us that have worked in schools know that that's kind of how they're set up. And the great teachers will go in there and try and change it as much as possible. That's a system though, okay? And it's really a school-centric system. I'm going to use this document to help me frame it all. Where all the components of the system are designed for efficiency of education delivery in the context of standardized schools. So it's from 1930s management science or 1920s, and it's all about standardization, efficiency, and batching kids and getting them through the system quickly. Okay, that's how the teachers are treated. And it's all school board, and there's the superintendent, and there's the principals, and then there's the teachers and the students, and it's literally thought of in that way. And the people they talk to last are the students and the teachers before, right? So that's the current model. Now we need to move to a learner-centric model. And I'm going to talk about how I think with this group of the high levels of consciousness in this group, we're going to take that to another level. Learner-centric, it's going to be heart-centered. But anyway, they talk about it as learner-centered. And so in the current model, it's about standardized age cohorts. It's about linear curricula. It's about education factories called schools. And this is coming from like the union presidents, okay? So I'm just saying I believe all of this, but I love the fact that I can read this from a document that was signed by a bunch of mainstream people. The learning experiences are designed to impart knowledge in long established categories, okay? The subjects. Hi, Stacy. The subjects, right? We got to all the subjects were decided in a political process, and now we all have to learn all these subjects that we don't even know if we're ever going to use, right? Sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not. Okay. And then what we're actually moving towards is, and then the skills and dispositions that we needed in the previous model was all about recall. Barbie, if you're listening, I like it how you talk about this too, is like we just think about kids as empty vessels and we're just dropping knowledge into their heads, okay? And so that's kind of the ways we're thinking about it. And it's very discrete skills, like when was World War II, okay? And what we need to move toward is skills and dispositions that actually really that all of our kids need to be learning all the time. So it's problem solving, it's time goal management, critical thinking, learning how to learn, communication, metacognition, social awareness, creativity, innovation. I can't even wait when I start talking about this through a consciousness lens, but I'm going to use this document for now. And then some of the dispositions are self-agency, self-control, curiosity, initiative, resilience, adaptability. Okay, so leadership, ethics, self-control. These are all the social emotional learning skills that are having its heyday in schools, even before COVID. And now it's like, whew, we need those big time. All right, and then the other thing this document talks about, and then I promise I'm going to get to my idea that's been coming through to me. I think that's actually it. Oh, no. The other thing that's really cool is it talks about the current paradigm and how we need to move to our learner-centered paradigm. Again, stuff that matters, Stacy. Exactly, right? So we need to move from the current paradigm to the learner-centered, which I think is even more than learner-centered, it's heart-centered. It's both. But it starts with heart-centered. So organization of learners. Right now, they're in age cohorts. Depending on how old you are, you got to be put in that group, right? So it doesn't allow for people to move out in and out of these kind of standardized cohorts. The curriculum, as we talked about that, it's linear. The progress indicators and the way the schools are set up, like a factory, it's all required credits, required hours, required resilience, yes, required seat time. So it's a very black and white, again, factory model, okay? The role of learners, passive vessel to be filled. The role of adults, individual teachers are expected to serve as content deliverers, curriculum developers, and data assessors. Okay, that's what the teachers are doing. Technology, the idea is that you have a one-to-many communication. So smart boards, which I have a lot of opinions about smart boards, but I can go there right now. Projectors, that kind of use of technology. Very 20th century, right? And then the resource allocation, this is so important. It's place and formula-based funding. Okay, so it's uncorrelated with individual and children's needs. That's how we're funding our schools. It's not based on the children, it's based on the place and the formulas. It's absolutely ridiculous. And location, it's in a school building. Now, this is where we have an opportunity, people. It's in a school building, and then the way we meet the learner's needs, we teach to the middle, and we try and differentiate the standards. The best teachers, I used to teach workshops on this all the time. They differentiate instruction, so someone who's over here gets what they need, and someone down here, again, we're thinking in hierarchy, so that's how we talk about it. And it drives me insane when teachers say this, but they talk about the low and the high students, and I'm like, really? But anyway, that's how it's not the teacher's fault. That's how the system's designed. Okay, so so the principles we need to be looking at are, I'm going to talk about the principles they lay out, and then the ones that I have, which are very similar. In a learner-centered, it's learners learn individually and in diverse and shifting groups. So they're moving around in different groups, or they're not always in a fixed group. Okay, we can talk about that with this moment. It's relevant curriculum, and it's competency-based, meaning that it's not exactly, every kid doesn't get the same curriculum. Okay, development of competency and agreed to domains of knowledge, skills, and so the skills and dispositions are personalized for each learner. So if one kid might be super intuitive and empathic, we don't need to teach them that over and over again. One kid might be a math whiz. It's like, once they've gotten that, let's move on. Okay, if they're struggling, then let's figure out where we meet their needs. So again, it's personalized. They're active co-creators of their development and their learning. They're not passive vessels. We all know that. This is a conscious group. All right. There's a network of qualified adults. It's not just one teacher as the omnipotent, all-knowing person that just sits there and stands and delivers the lecture, and everyone just waits for them to give them information, and we just take our notes and wait, right? Very passively. It's actually a network of qualified adults, mental health professionals, intuitive coaches, tutors, facilitators, all different types of people. Intentional assessment for, as, and of learning. So what that means, kind of education speak, but right now we take a quiz, we take a test kind of at the end. The best teachers find a way to kind of check what the kids are learning along the way, but it's very much like a fixed assessment, like a fixed test, and we're all getting them ready for the standardized test, right? And then the financial resources need to be applied and integrated to support the whole child, all right? And that's where social emotional learning in the current context is getting some resource allocation, but it's still way behind. And then this is so critical, and I've heard all my friends that are educators, my conscious parent friends, talk about this. I've been talking about this for years. Learning occurs everywhere. It doesn't just occur from 9 to 3 or 8 to 3. It's not, math doesn't happen for 42 minutes in the factory model. Learning occurs everywhere, at many times, in many places, through many formats, and the physical space is established for learners and adults to gather, socialize, and learn. And this is goally what we were talking about yesterday. All right. And then there's personalized learning for each learner based on their needs. Okay. So those are the principles that we need to be building our new version of school around. 100% agree with this document, but it's a very 3D material world document, and we can take it to a completely different level. And so I think the principles that we need to start with in this movement is around a heart-centered movement, because this assumes that the kids will become creative because we just put them in a space that lets them be creative, which is true. But imagine if we actually taught them how to tap into their intuition and how to tap into the most creative version of themselves, which they do all the time until we beat it out of them or condition it out of them. Beat's a little strong word. Until we condition it out of them. So it's got to be heart-centered. And then the creativity and the autonomy and the learner-centered and the personalization all comes around that. So the number one principle in this movement, PLE principle, is heart-centered. Okay, and then one way to translate that for the mainstream is talk about social emotional learning. People love that for the most part. Parents love it. Some of the schools are still catching on. We talk about it in terms of consciousness. We talk about it in terms of timeless wisdom. So depending on the audience, how we talk about it, mindfulness. That's the one that a lot of schools are really okay with. All right. So those are the number one principles. And then the other really, really important principle is that there's a home and a school and a parent connection. Okay. So those are the principles. So here's the idea. And before I get down to the ground, I want to talk about the process of the idea, because I think it's really, really critical to this movement, is that we can start to test this idea, and I'll get back to what the idea is. We can test this idea and then show people what's possible, amplify it, highlight it, connect people around it. So it's a very simple idea, and it's not that ingenious, but I think connecting it will be really awesome. So I'm just going to start with this. Now we're going to get on the ground, very specific, and I know this idea will get better and better and better as more I talk about it. But this is where it is right now, and I thank you to Stacy and others have helped me process it. So basically, let's just start with this. Schools, most schools across the world, I believe, at least in the U.S., but I think across the world, are closed in the fall, like a month away or less. So I've had an intuitive feeling for 3, 4, 5 years that homeschooling was something about homeschooling was going to massively change our system. And then COVID hit. And I'm like, oh, okay, billions of children are now being homeschooled. Thanks, intuition. I knew that was coming. I just didn't know what it was. So let's get 5 families, 4 other families together. Let's find people that you think will connect with you the most. You choose who your 4 families are. There's 5 families. There's 5 days. This is co-op schooling. This is what years ago my friends did with preschools. Each parent takes a day. So with the 5 kids on Monday, Stacy would have her 5 kids, including her daughter. And she would, here's the thing, it's not a micro school, it's not a homeschool. You don't need a license. None of those things are necessary. It's literally just a bridge or a gap between the distance learning that the schools are providing, and I believe all the private schools and the district schools now and the charter schools, any school is providing some virtual component of distance learning, right? So you don't have to deal with getting a whole homeschool license and dealing with all of that. All you need to do is figure out how you're going to get through your week with distance learning. So you have a teacher that's hired by the school that does your distance learning. But the group collectively hires another teacher or tutor or adult in addition to the parents to help get through the day. And one really, really important data point that a lot of my homeschool friends share, and I've tested it with my educator friends and they all agree, it's about 1 to 2 hours of academics that get done in a day at a normal school. The best version of school, maybe it's pushing it to like 2 or 3, but at the end of the day, I'm talking about younger kids, probably like K5, but I'm sure it's not much different in the older kids, in the 6 through 12. But basically, in terms of reading, writing, arithmetic, the really important foundational skills, your kids might be getting 1 to 2 hours of that a day in the school because they got to line up, they got to wait, get their lunch, they go into recess, the teacher is giving directions. There's so many things going on, and all those things are valuable. I'm not saying they're not, but in terms of what this idea, if you could have a tutor to spend 1 to 2 hours a day teaching the kids the things that maybe the parents in this group don't want to spend, at 2 hours teaching math. So you have somebody to kind of come in, they co-quarantine with you, which means you have to find someone who's willing to spend time with 5 families, and you'd have to have really clear agreed upon rules and kind of like a social contract of how you're going to interact and make sure everyone's safe. But basically each day you get 4 days to do your thing because the kids are at another house. You pool your resources, you pay the teacher or tutor, not the actual distance learning teacher because they're getting paid through their school. And here's the beauty of this. You get the academics done, right? And then the other part of the day, which is 22 hours, you're basically homeschooling or microschooling, meaning that all the magic can come together. So all the principles we just talked about, you're doing. So you can do art projects. You can do, all these cool things. You can play with your kids. This is where learning happens all the time, right? Now, here's the thing. Some of you might be thinking like, well, I don't know how to put together an art project. I don't know how to do. So that's where we can start to leverage the virtual learning. And this is where, Stacy, thank you for the idea of the e-learning. And we could bring in some version of Timeless Wisdom teachers. We could bring in Herky. I'm going to tag you, but someone like Herky, Hani, we could have you come in and do like mindfulness through like a 20-minute Zoom, and we could pool our resources and make sure that we're monetizing and paying those amazing people that are coming in. Lily Kim could do her art course. Sasha could come in and do some really cool things. We already have people in this group that could do it. And that would allow us to I'm saying get through the day because it's so hard. I mean, in my house, it's like getting through the day in a lot of ways. So that's a whole nother conversation that the conscious coaches can take on for me. But anyway, so and then that's where like the magic can happen because you are able to have the parent homeschool, all these things we talked about, parent homeschool connection, bringing your values, your timeless wisdom teaching, your meditation, your mindfulness, your all the things you want to be teaching your kids, and bring in it's personalized. There's only 5 kids. Do you understand? There will be, I asked the teachers and some of our assistant teachers at the school, would they be willing to do this? And they're like, are you kidding me? I could work with 5 kids with like parents that agree with how we're going to work together and spend spend a couple hours a day. Like, are you kidding me? Every teacher's dream is one-on-one, but 5 is close enough to one-on-one. It's better than 30, right? So anyway, that's the idea. I'm trying to think if there are any other things I was going to talk through. So this going back to the like 10,000 foot, like the airplane, like the strategy or the like process. I think that Heart of the Matter can provide a resource and a hub and a connection point for so many people that are interested in doing this. And let's be honest, like a lot of people aren't going to be forced to do this unless they want to do some version of COVID schooling again, where you're just doing distance learning and you're with your kids all day. It's really difficult. So Heart of the Matter can provide the resources. And then I think as we're building this movement toward these key principles of absolutely changing the face of education, like we're never going to remember in 30 years, this is the dream. Our kids will be like, what was a factory model school? Right? They'll be like, what? Remember when we did that crazy COVID schooling thing where we got to spend all this time with our friends and it was so amazing and so much fun, and then we didn't really want to go back to those factory models? And this is where Goalie's idea and others that I've talked to, then you start building the community centers and the hubs, and these are community-based schools, and it's the parents are in the schools, the parents are involved, and we stop this kind of paradigm of, because this has to be a paradigm shift, we stop the paradigm of outsourcing your kids for 14 hours a day, okay? And we start really reconnecting with our kids, which is all about what conscious parenting is about. And I think that's everything. Let me just see if there's anything else. Oh, this is going to be, okay, I just got the chills. So I know this is absolutely universal truth. This is going to be a grassroots movement. It's not going to be a top-down movement. This is going to be the 108 people, whatever the number is now in here, basically doing these things in a way that's so conscious and so amazing that the ripple effect will come. And it'll start a little bit at a time. When we had our meeting the other day with the 10 folks that were in this meeting, I told everyone, like, those 10 people alone, their vibrational frequency and their connection can change the face of education, like alone. So if we say 100, then it'll be 1,000, then 100,000, then 1,000,000, and then 10 million. Like, it's just going to be the wave. It's going to be the ripple effect. And it literally starts this small, is that as many of us are interested in doing this, I'm going to call it co-op schooling. I don't know. We need to come up with a name. We got to change the language, right? Any movement has to come up with a new language. So this co-op schooling will allow us to show people like, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not working. It's a massive test. We're going to do it anyway. So let's let Heart of the Matter facilitate it. So anyway, I'd love to hear feedback. Love to hear feedback. I'm jumping on a call pretty soon with Megan Barba, who's in the group in Chicago, and we're going to chat through some of these ideas. And I really want to hear feedback. And yeah, I'm just really formulating the idea. It's definitely 100% intuitive. So it's a little bit, that's why I jumped on today, even though I was a little bit scatterbrained, because I knew that I just had to get this out to the world as soon as possible. So, all right, that's the message for today. Didn't really mean to go for 23 minutes, but I could probably talk about this for 2 hours, 200 hours. Everyone have a great day. I'm going to close with this. There are infinite possibilities. The universe has our back. This is a massive opportunity that I have been getting in my downloads for 3 years. I had no idea it would be the COVID craziness and the issues with racial injustice. I didn't even get to that today, but let's be really clear. Our schools are not set up for people of color, period, end of story. Majority of them are not set up. Okay, it's all part of the white dominant culture and the systemic racism. So there's no choice at this point but to change. No choice. So the universe is definitely tapping in. Holly Hall messaged me last night when I had hung up with Goalie, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is not even us talking right now. Like, this is it. And then Holly basically messaged me with a similar idea. I was like, great, I'm formulating it right now. Okay, so I want you guys, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Stay in infinite possibilities. Do the work. Love yourself more than you've ever loved yourself. And we're gonna definitely change the face of education for our kids. And this is beautiful. This is a beautiful model where normal mainstream people are coming together to change. And I'll tell you this right now, everyone I talk to knows it needs to change. And the fact that you got these people to sign the same document, I'm telling you, when you have these people agreeing on something, you know it's going to change. But we're going to take this to the level that's like a whole nother level of consciousness. And it's going to be all about a heart-centered movement. So there you go. I cannot wait. I'm telling you guys, this group is amazing. Amazing group. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. It's just going to unfold. I don't have an agenda. I just have the roadmap now. I just have the vision. I'm taking it day by day. The messages are being delivered. I'm just obeying the tug, Stacy, for you, obeying the tugs. All right, everyone, have a great day.